I want to call the June 16th Board of Supervisors meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call. We have our Chief of Police, John Fry. We have Supervisor Danielle Joanne, and we have our Vice Chair, Mark Donovan, and myself, Martha Majeski. We also have Lori Getz, and our Township Manager, and our Solicitor, Bill Brennan. We did have executive sessions on June 2nd, which we discussed potential litigation. And on June 16th, which is today, we discussed potential litigation and potential property acquisition. And we will be continuing that after our meeting this evening as well.
To discuss personnel.
Thank you, Lori. Mm-hmm. All right. Next we have on our agenda is a public hearing, and at this time I'm going to turn everything over to our Solicitor, Bill Brennan.
All right, thank you, Martha. Let's go on the record. The MPC, the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code, requires a public hearing in connection with any proposed change to the zoning ordinance of the township, and that is what is proposed this evening. It's a minor matter. It is a typographical error, but I would like to give a brief statement of why we are going through an ordinance to fix what would ordinarily be not that significant. The zoning code is broken down into various districts, and I was speaking to Kim about the industrial zone because she had an inquiry about whether a property owner could install an asphalt plant in the industrial area of the township. So we just checked the zoning together to make sure that we knew what the standards would be, the side yard setback, lot size, and everything else. Well, in checking the industrial zone at section 104, there's a statement that says that the regulations concerning lot size, height area, and bulk, etc., side yard setback, things of that nature, it says the regulations of section 370-92 shall apply. Well, unhappily for us, in checking section 370-92, the text was not applicable to lot size, height area, or bulk regulations. Now, the problem is that the law in Pennsylvania is of strict construction against townships in zoning matters, which means that it sounds like not a big deal, but a property owner could look at this typographical error and possibly get the benefit of there being no regulation of lot size, height area, and bulk regulations for a proposed industrial plant. The proper regulations were found one number later. Section 370-93 is entitled Lot Size, Height, Area, and Bulk Regulations, and are specifically related to the industrial district. So we decided that it was appropriate under the circumstances to follow the procedures for making this typographical area correction, particularly because of the strict construction rule. So I'd like to introduce into evidence, and these documents demonstrate the requirements that are necessary to change the zoning ordinance. Exhibit number 1, we'll call it B1 for Board 1, is my letter of April 25th, 2022, sending the corrective ordinance to Kurt English and our Planning Commission and to the Chester County Planning Commission for review. Exhibit B2 is the affidavit of publication from the 21st Century Media Group, that's the Mercury, approving publication of the proposed enactment of the ordinance in the Mercury on May 24th and May 31st, as required by the MPC. Board Exhibit number 3 is a resolution enacted by this board on May 19th of 2022, demonstrating that the ordinance would be prepared and acted upon this evening. And of course, Exhibit B4 is the text of the ordinance, which basically recites the information that I have provided. So it's not a big matter yet. If there was an application for a major industrial plant, we would not want to be without any regulation. So that's the background of it, and at this point I would open the record to any questions or comments from members of the public about this proposal. All right, seeing none, any questions from the board? Seeing none? No. All right, then the record is closed but for the vote. So I will hear a motion to approve the ordinance, which will be marked as number 2022-1. This is our first ordinance of the year. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the ordinance of Schuylkill Township, Chester County, Pennsylvania, amending the Schuylkill Township zoning ordinance as amended by correcting a typographical error in section 370-104.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All right, any public discussion? Seeing none? All right, all those in favor signify their assent by saying aye.
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 And none opposed? We have a quorum, and accordingly, the record is closed. And I want to thank Tom Corker and our court reporter for his services. Okay, thank you.
7:30 p.m., not a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Hope you enjoyed your Chick-fil-A.
Oh, I'm jealous.
I know.
I didn't have dinner. I should have gone along.
I haven't gotten there.
Let's say my wife to a restaurant that didn't have a drive-through. It's not that I'm cheap.
It's just convenient.
Your poor wife.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm here.
And next time, a brighter time.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
up
I'm
to
sorry.
that.
Yeah, I feel kind of bad about that. That's all right. It's all right.
We'll just have to lower our expectations.
Yeah, that's true. Getting lower in the
Tom, do you mind if we move on?
Oh, go right ahead. Thank you. I'm real
Okay.
quiet already. Thank you for having me.
See you next week.
Okay,
Thanks.
great. Moving on with our agenda, we have the presentation of the 2021 audit financials. Jeff, I always pronounce your last name wrong.
Kowalczyk.
Jeff Kowalczyk from Barbicane Thornton and Company will present the township's 2021 audited financials report.
Thank you. I don't know if you want to also announce that Peter is attending via Zoom.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And I also wanted to announce that Peter Bars is attending via Zoom for us. And he is our current controller for the township. So, hi Peter, can you hear us okay? Great, okay. All right, Jeff, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, thank you so much for having me out here tonight. I'm delighted to be here to present the results of our audit for the year ended December 31st, 2021. I handed out to each of you here a brief summary, but I know the full financial statement document is also available.
Can you get a little closer?
Oh, sure, I'd be here. I'll tilt it up a little.
It's more for the recording
Yep.
than it is for us. So.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, so I'm really pleased to be here to be able to say that as a result of our testing of your organization for the year ended December 31st, 2021, we issued an unmodified clean audit opinion on your financial statements, particularly your DCED form, which gets filed with the state, which was timely filed by the April 1st regulatory deadline. Additionally, we did not identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in your internal controls. As part of our audit, we provided a limited number of adjusting journal entries, but they were not to radically change your accounting or because things were missed. It was primarily to align certain transactions with the coding that's required to be used for the regulatory filing. So that's what the adjustments were. Additionally, as I said, there were no findings. We did provide a couple recommendations. As your organization is having some turnover in the township manager role, we recommended that this would be an excellent time to take a look at implementing certain policies as far as revisiting and, if necessary, revising things like password policies, also, and establishing investment policies for the use of funds that are available for the township. Overall this year, the township had a year where you were able to bring in a little more resources than you initially anticipated, partially assisted through the federal government's ARPA program. And so you'll see that those funds were able to be set aside for future years, or you had about $900,000 that was transferred to some of your capital funds for specific long-term uses in accordance with your multiple-year capital projects plan. At this point, I'd like to open it up to any questions that anybody may have had about the financial statements, about the audit process, or about anything else that I could assist with.
I actually have a few questions for you.
Sure.
I did speak to, and I can't remember what his name was, it was one of the auditors that was here back in January, I think it was.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you're aware of this. There was an issue with our local school district where an
Yes.
employee was convicted of defrauding
Yep.
the finances there. So I did have two residents that live in my neighborhood who asked me, well, what's the township doing? Are you guys okay? And do you guys have internal controls and all that kind of stuff? Now, I know the answer to that, but I'd really like this to be on the public record.
Sure.
So I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Okay, that sounds great. So I think we hired Barbara Thornton. Was that back in 2012 or 2013?
That sounds about right.
Okay, I couldn't remember the exact date myself. One of the things that we talked about when you were first hired is we were going to be hiring a new employee who was going to be taking charge of our finances.
That's correct.
And we wanted you to take a look at our internal controls because we were having a new employee come in and we wanted to make sure that if we had any gaps or there were any issues with our internal controls, we wanted you to give us some advice on how to close those gaps and to make sure that everything is good for this new employee that were to come in. Did you do that?
So every year as part of our, I'm going to answer it in Accountingese, but yes, every year as part of our audit, in addition to testing individual transactions, we also assess controls to identify areas where there may be increased audit risk that requires special audit considerations, or where we may find material deficiencies or significant deficiencies, weaknesses, or opportunities for improvement. And as you know, in prior years, we have had opportunities where we've reported moderately significant or mildly significant items, and they have been remedied and rectified generally by the township. As I mentioned, we did issue a letter this year with a couple recommendations. I would qualify them all as opportunities for improvement and not items that you need to resolve a pressing matter.
Okay. You actually just answered one of my questions. My next question was, did you find anything and was it implemented? And you did answer that.
Yeah, and I can tell you the one item that we had that was probably the most significant recommendation had to do with bank reconciliations, reconciling the bank account. It was being done on a timely basis, but due to some changes in staffing and timing, there wasn't a consistent review being documented. It was being reviewed, but it wasn't being fully documented to verify so that an independent observer could come in and see that. And so I know that was rectified subsequent to year end.
That's one of the things that Peter Bars does for us.
Okay, that's good. So I'm going to ask you, of course, the question that I ask you every year.
Yeah.
In the course of the audit that you had when the guys came here, did any of our staff give you a hard time or refuse to give you any documentation?
Not about any audit, accounting, or related matters.
Okay.
I mean, we harass them a lot on other non-work related things.
But you know that. No, I gave too jokey an answer for a serious question, and the answer is no. We did not have any issues with staff at all. Everyone was fully helpful, forthcoming, honest throughout the audit process. We did not see any evidence of anyone trying to mislead or hide anything.
Okay, all right. And again, you've already answered my next question. In the years that you've been doing our audits, have you suspected that any employee or elected official may have misused, misappropriated, or stolen any funds?
Sure. While the purpose of our audit is not to identify fraud or abuse or waste, I can tell you that we have not identified any as a result of any of our audits. And we have not, as I mentioned, identified any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies that we believe would create an elevated risk of such a abuse or fraudulent activity.
Okay, thank you. I think you've answered questions that a few residents have asked of me. So.
Absolutely, and important questions.
Yeah, okay.
So,
thank you so much. Does anyone in the board have any other questions? Does anyone in the public have any questions?
No.
Okay.
Don't all jump at once.
Right.
And there's one thing that I wanted to say in your audit report here,
Yes.
and I really just love this sentence that you have. It says, in performing an audit in accordance with the GAAP, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit.
Yep.
I love that sentence. I don't know why. I just do. I think it's a good attitude to have. And,
It's a requirement. I mean, we actually don't write the report. It's a standardized report.
well,
Yeah, I know.
so
But that really is, you've hit on the key thing of our report, besides the opinion, is what underlies it is professional skepticism and the need to approach every year. You know, we know your organization. We have to assume that we don't know you and anything could have changed, because if something changed in February, by the time we're here the next January, you may not even be thinking of it as something that changed this year, and it could have substantial audit impact. So we have to think that way throughout the process.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Jeff.
Thanks,
and
Jeff.
Thank your staff for us as well.
Absolutely. We'll do.
Okay.
Thank you all for being so helpful throughout the audit and for having me here tonight. And I hope you have a great rest of your meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, did you have anything?
That was my next question. Peter, did you have anything for Jeff?
Just real quick, Lori and I met with Jeff. We had a very productive meeting. There were a couple little nits included that were in the financial statements, nothing significant. He was more than happy to make those alterations to the, I wouldn't even call them corrections, alterations to the financial statements. We went over them pretty much in detail, Lori and I, and we had quite a few questions. He was very helpful. He was right on everything, and I feel did a very nice job. And I think the financial statements properly reflect the status of your. Oops, sorry about that. The status of the township is being very healthy. We also, Jeff did mention, and I apologize for the barking dog, but I do. There is a letter that he included that has suggested improvements. Just by hiring me, we checked one of those off, which was to review the bank reconciliations. There were a few more that Lori and I are going to work on. One of them's intercompany or interfund analysis, and there's something like a disaster relief program and an accounting manual that we can also work on as well. So they're very helpful, right on topic, if you would, suggestions. So they've given us a real good guide moving forward as to strengthening things. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you,
Great.
Peter, and thank you, Jeff.
Thank you all. Have a good
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
You're welcome. Good night.
See you, Peter.
Okay. Bye. Take care.
Bye, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. Acceptance of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors, the May 4th, 2022 business meeting, and the May 19th, 2022 business meeting. Gee, that wasn't a workshop meeting.
Yeah.
Acceptance of reports, all departmental, committee, commission, and council reports as posted and received by the Board of Supervisors for the month of May 2022. I'll make that motion. Do I hear a second?
Small question. I was here for the May 4th business meeting,
Oh.
but not for the May 19th business meeting.
We'll have to table,
So you may have to
we'll have to
table.
table the May 19th until the next meeting.
Let's amend the motion.
Okay. I'll amend the motion to say acceptance of the minutes of the Board of Supervisors for the May 4th, 2022 business meeting. Acceptance of reports, all departmental, committee, commission, and council reports as posted and received by the Board of Supervisors for the month of May 2022. I'll make that motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes, Lori, can you please
I'll
make
put
sure
them on
we
the
put
next
the
agenda.
May 19th on our next agenda?
Will do.
The treasurer's report and payment of bills for the period ending May 31st, 2022. Consideration of acceptance of the treasurer's report and approval to pay the bills. I'll make that motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Lori, would you like to comment?
Yes, I would.
And I just saw a whole bunch of deer.
They were just all
Oh,
out
yeah.
back when I went to get,
They
yeah.
just hopped in. I'm sorry.
They were on their way to my
That
house
was
to eat
just
my
a
house.
distraction.
Should we let them in?
They just hopped, oh, there's one still.
Maybe they have public comment.
Okay, Lori, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's okay. So treasurer's report for month ending May 31st. General fund balance, 5.2 million. We're about 502,000 over last month. Increase is largely, it's primarily real estate and earned income taxes. The real estate taxes have slowed now that we're out of the discount period and in the flat rate period. And the earned income tax, though, is up about 300,000 over last year, where we were at this point last year. So for real estate taxes, we've collected about 90% of those and about 50% of the earned income taxes. And the bills have been reviewed and are recommended for payment.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Any comment from the board? Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
2-minute reports, board liaisons. Do you have anything, Mark?
1 second. Oh, yeah. I attended the clean energy groups. Yeah. I attended the clean energy VPP grant groups meeting last month, and we were talking about the status of audit reports, and I brought them the information from our township that we're working on the vehicle reports and should have those by next month. That'll complete our energy audit, and they should be able to start making recommendations moving forward. Other than that, there's not much else going on. So.
Okay, all right. I actually have something from the Historical Commission. This wasn't something that happened at their meeting. This was just something that happened within the past two or 3 days. I don't know if any of you recall the Bull Tavern used to have a restaurant there called La Taverna. And in the walls of the restaurant, there were these hand-painted murals. I can't remember the artist's name, but they were depictions of historical things that happened in Schuylkill Township. When the Bull Tavern was sold and to its current owner, and Valley Vet was doing construction on it. They had to come to the Historical Commission because it's on our historical list. And one of the things that people asked was, what are you doing with the murals? And the owner of the property said, oh, I'm going to keep them. And he said, oh, okay, that's great. And I guess it was about a month or two later, he ended up putting several of them up for auction. He did keep some of them, but he put some of them up for auction. And Sandy Momeyer, the chair of our historical commission at the time, went to this auction and she purchased one of the murals. And she has now moved out of the township, and she has decided to donate this mural to the township. And it's pretty sizable from what I understand. I think it's like, I don't know, 5 feet by 5 feet. It's a pretty sizable thing. It needs some work, but it needs some cleanup and a frame and that kind of stuff. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is while the construction was going on at the Bull Tavern, everyone kept saying to me, oh, yeah, it's really nice that it's being reconstructed, but what's happening to the murals? What are they doing with the murals? Has somebody saved the murals? What's happening with the murals? I don't want to, say that nobody cared about the building, but more people cared about, or asked me anyway, about the murals. And I think it's really great that Sandy has decided to donate this to the township. So we can find a place to put it, but.
So they were actual murals on plaster? Or?
No, they weren't on plaster. They were on, I don't want to say, like, it's more,
Stucco?
no, it's on wood, like real thin, like luan.
Like a veneer of wood or something.
Like paneling, but it's not paneling, it's better than that. It's an artist board.
Mm-hmm.
And they were hanging up at the tavern, and like I said, it depicts Moore Hall and the owner of Moore Hall in his carriage. And if anybody's familiar with like early American folk art, it's in that style. So we're going to be acquiring that tomorrow.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Soon.
Soon.
Yes.
Soon is more accurate. Maybe.
Soonish, yes.
So, but anyway, that's all I have. And I've already spoken to you guys in executive session regarding what's happening with the Open Space Commission. So, any other 2-minute reports?
I have nothing to report.
Lori.
Just a brief one. We did have our.
I'm sorry.
Township
He's
manager, then
next.
chief.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's next.
We had the pre-construction meeting for Paul Lehman Drive, so we met with Doley, the contractor that was awarded the bid. They're struggling with supply chain issues, so they're doing everything they can. It's going as fast as it can. We're probably not looking at this point though until the fall for a construction start date, unfortunately,
Okay.
just based on their inability to get materials and staffing issues. So that's where we are, but it's moving along.
Okay, so just a dumb question. Will Paul Lemon Drive be closed during the entire?
Not during the entirety, no. There will be times that portions of it will have to be closed and there will be detours, and that's the responsibility of the contractor to notify everybody and to work with the school district. I've provided them with the contacts I talked to the school district, and they have the transportation manager's information to coordinate around the bus stops.
Awesome.
Yeah. We had the ribbon cutting ceremony. I don't want to steal your thunder.
No, that's okay. I'll let you do it.
We had a fabulous ribbon cutting ceremony for Valley Park, and we were famous and in the newspaper. It went very well, though. We had
me blush.
we had a really good turnout. Yeah, it was just a great day. It was nice to bring so many people out, and we got a lot of great feedback on the park. So it was a really nice day.
So to follow up on that, Bob Malk from our Open Space Commission, this was one of the first properties, actually it was the first property that the township purchased when the Open Space Commission was founded. And that was the last time he walked the property. That was back in 2009, I think. Is that when?
That's what he said, yeah,
The
yeah.
property was purchased in 2009. And he hadn't walked the property since then. And it was the first time that he's walked it, and he was just really, really pleased.
Yeah. And now he's been out there again since
Yes,
then. Yeah.
he's been there since, and
Yeah.
he's brought his dogs and all of that, so,
Yeah.
he was really impressed with the park, so it
Yeah.
was a nice thing. Yeah, it was a nice day, it was awesome. So, and Chief, thank you for, providing traffic control, and, thank, Chris McKay and those guys for, helping them with that too.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
guys did a really great job, and,
Mhm.
we had no tragedies, so it was a success.
And the last thing I have is just that the road department has been working on replacing the curbing on, they started on Rossiter, I believe, and they'll be on Green Hill and Laurel Lane. That's
Yeah, they
it.
started cutting,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that all day long.
Ooh.
Okay.
But it'll be so pretty when it's done. That's all I have.
Yep.
Okay, all right, Chief.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. I'll start off with the report for May for the police department activity. Did you have any questions about the activity?
Now, was there anything, I don't want to say outstanding or significant, but, you know, was there anything that stands out in your mind that happened this month that you may want to let the public be aware of?
Well, you can see on the report there that our traffic stops are way up.
Yeah.
We've been focusing on residential areas and traffic concerns that we've received. Also, our school checks, which we've doubled since we were doing them prior to the tragic events that occurred in Texas, but since then we've doubled them. So our officers are in schools at least twice a day, patrolling the area, the campuses. So those are up as well. Other than that, we had a higher than number of arrests in the month of May. As you can see, we had 5 criminal complaints and 5 non-traffics. There's some simple assaults in there, domestic, some disorderly conducts, a couple harassments. I don't have all the reports in front of me, but it was a pretty busy month.
What generally falls under the incidents on that first line there?
Incidents, so anytime we generate a number in our records management system, it could be anything from a car stop to checking an alarm to a business check.
Okay.
Anything that, any activity that we do, we generate a number.
Okay, so is that like a summary line item for the whole of that
It's not just calls
activity?
for service, it's also
Okay, yeah.
self-initiated.
Yeah, okay.
We're doing them.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Thanks.
Which ones are you talking about? We're doing them at the next meeting.
Do you feel like you have enough coverage with the additional checks in the schools? Are you have enough,
The ones you
officer
signed.
coverage to?
Next meeting. They're
I
on the
mean,
agenda.
obviously, if you're taking officers and you're putting them in the schools, they're not somewhere else in the township. So do you feel like you have enough
Yeah, well,
sufficient
our school
coverage?
checks, our officers check in at the front desk. Sometimes they'll walk the halls, but they're still available for calls.
Okay,
They don't go out of service.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think we're okay. We're okay as far as coverage goes.
Cool.
Any other questions?
Any nice things that happened? I mean, I hate to talk about thefts and domestic violence and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, did anybody call and say, you know, I really like, you know, Chris Manonian, he did a fabulous job in doing something, you know? Did you have anything like that?
Not last month, but doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah, when I get those, I send them right to you.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah, I
can-
know you do. I just didn't know if you had anything that, you know, maybe happened recently.
Not to dwell on the incident in Texas, but has that informed at all your coordination with the township, with the school district, I should say, in terms of emergency planning? We don't like to have disaster sort of drills, but, you know, we should plan for something and hope it doesn't happen rather than have it happen and not planned.
So, yes, our officers have been trained in active shooter. Since when I first started here, active shooter training was always a priority of mine. But since I've spoken to Frank Aratano from the school district, Chief Marshal in Phoenixville, and I think sometime in August, we're going to get our department, Phoenixville and East Pikeland together, and we're going to do a joint training between the departments and active shooter, try to get into a couple of schools, maybe the high school, maybe Madison. Because if something happens, we're going to be working together anyway, so we should train together. I've also enrolled one of our officers in active shooter instructor school, so they'll be able to train our department, just us. We would also make that available to other departments if needed. So that training's at the end of August.
That's
So,
excellent,
Alright.
thank you.
Thanks.
Who's doing that?
Eric Schaus.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Any other questions? Okay.
The only other thing I had was next Thursday is our Cones with the Cop event. It'll be right out here, 6 to 8 o'clock. We're going to have Petrucci's will be here doing ice cream and water ice. We'll have a police car set up for any kids they want to jump in it. We'll have a fire truck. I think we're going to have one of the SWAT vehicles, and Nick's going to bring a truck up from the township as well. So it'll be a fun event. Hopefully we have good weather.
I'm sad I'm gonna miss it. So, that sounds awesome.
Do you need any volunteers? Are you guys covered, or? Do you
Yeah,
need-
I think we're okay. I mean,
Okay.
the Petrucci's going to take care of all the ice cream and stuff. All we have to do is just get everything set up, but I think we're okay.
Okay, I'll bring my boys back and by.
Sure.
We'll enjoy that.
That's awesome.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. We have township engineer on here, but he's not here.
Nope.
So, moving on, board discussion items. We have no old business, so I'm gonna move on to new business. Consider adopting the Internal Revenue Service increased standard mileage rate of 62.5 cents per mile effective July 1st, 2022.
It's up 4 cents.
No, I know.
Yeah. Do you want a motion?
We
I'll
do
make the
want a motion,
I'll make the
yes.
motion.
Okay.
I'll make the motion to adopt the Internal Revenue Service increased standard mileage rate.
And I will second that.
Yeah.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Discussion on Valley Park and Pickering Preserve maintenance strategies. Lori, do you want to lead this conversation, or would you like me to?
We could do it together, but I
Okay,
think
I
the,
think I'll
Who's
let
gonna
you
start?
start
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
because I think you'll be able to set the tone better than I will.
so this has been coming up a lot recently at the EAC meetings, and what we're looking for is just to have a discussion on what the vision of the board is for the way that we're maintaining our parks. The EAC gives a lot of input, and we take park maintenance ideas or plans to them first so that they can comment on them. We've been discussing mowing strategies, and Nick is looking for a guidebook, really, essentially. So there's just been a little bit of, there have been some back and forth discussions, and I just thought that we could all talk about where do we envision, like Valley Park, for instance. It's a perfect opportunity. We were just out there for the ribbon cutting. Are we happy with the way it's being maintained? Do we think anything needs to change? The Red Tail contract is going to be coming up for renewal. So just looking for some feedback, thoughts, if any.
I have not been to Valley Park since it started to, be warmer. So I don't know that I can speak to how it
Mhm.
looks today, but I thought it was being well maintained when I last was there. To be honest, I have never walked Pickering Preserve.
Yeah.
There's a very small parking lot, I think, right off of 29.
Yep.
And is that the only?
That's the only access.
And
Yeah.
is there just one loop of sort of a walking trail? Is that?
There's some trails in it, and then the trail. There's also a paved trail that runs all the way down to the YMCA.
Okay.
That we had thought about repaving this year, but we're holding because of the cost of paving anything right now.
There are some mowed paths
Okay.
that go through the preserve.
Okay.
If you Google if you look at it on Google Maps and you go into, you can actually see, because it's kind of a darker green,
Okay.
where the mow paths are. I think the issue that we're having with the EAC is that Red Tail is, this is what they do for a living. They control invasive species.
Mhm.
They come in and they say, oh, this invasive species that you have here, the way to get rid of it is you mow it before it goes to seed.
Mhm.
Oh, this one here, you have to dig it up.
Yep.
Or this one here, unfortunately, you have to spray in order to get rid of it, okay? So there was a meeting back in May
Mm-hmm.
with Red Tail, and they said it needs to be mowed before the end of June to get rid of several species of invasive plants.
Mhm.
Our EAC is saying, no, it can't be cut this month because it's gonna hurt all of the native plants that are there. But there aren't that many native plants that are there. In order for us in order for the native plants to thrive, you need to get rid of the invasive plants.
Right, and
And they don't want to listen to the people that the Board of Supervisors has hired to give us advice.
worst case, they mow it down, the natives and the invasives are rendered inert, and then we maybe work on a planting date with volunteers from the township to put in new native plants. I don't see a problem with them just mowing it down, or requiring it to be mowed down so that we can start fresh and work in native plants to the environment.
What they mentioned it is it Japanese stilt grass?
It's a combination of things. It's
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of things.
It's Canadian thistle, it is mugwort.
It's a host of plants.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a number of plants.
Yeah.
I guess but part of what, so we can continue to work with the, I think the best strategy is probably, we go to the EAC, talk to them. If Red Tail is recommending that it should be mowed, we should probably defer to Red Tail. And we had a fabulous meeting with Red Tail. Nick and I went out and met with him and the chair of the EAC, and it was a great meeting. He walked us through everything they're doing over there at Valley Park. They're doing a phenomenal job. I saw some before and after pictures, actually, which, it's amazing. They're doing a great job. So I guess the question is more, and beyond the mowing plan and the schedule, which we can work on. So A, do we want to go with the recommendations? How do you want that process to work?
Has the EAC given us a recommendation to use a different vendor?
No.
Now,
Or
Is there,
how to
when is the
manage it.
contract out?
Yeah.
July, it will be on the agenda. It will go to the EAC at their next meeting for discussion, and it will be on the agenda. I would absolutely recommend we continue with them.
Okay.
Having been down there, I really like the current
Yeah.
maintenance schedule.
They're doing a great job.
It's doing well, and
Yeah.
it seems like that everything's gone back to where we wanted to see it.
And I even asked him if he thought that, because there's been a lot of discussion about certain, we hear things like where maybe people aren't happy with the speed at which the invasives are being taken care of there. But I asked Red Tail, do you need more time here? If that was our goal, do you want to give me a proposal that suggests increased hours? And he said, no, you don't really need it. This is the pace at which it goes.
So he
I
wasn't,
have to bite my tongue.
so he wasn't, trying to inflate
Not
his
at all.
budget?
No.
Okay.
Not at all.
He's
No,
giving-
but
giving us
but
what we need.
I think that the
Absolutely.
EAC
Yeah, absolutely.
is expecting more results
Mhm.
than what we're getting. And if we had unlimited funds and the undivided attention of Red Tail, I think they could probably eliminate everything in.
Well, yeah, but we're not gonna have, we're not gonna
But
have.
we don't have
Yeah.
unlimited funds, and we're not going to have their undivided attention.
Unfortunately, we can't hire gardeners like Chanticleer can. So we're gonna have to move at the pace that we move.
And I
that's fine.
also think that there are a few members of the EAC that have this vision of Valley Park as being the next Longwood.
Yeah.
And
Is there an opportunity to engage them and have Redwood do a training session in,
mean, that would be-
invasive
That's a
plant
great idea.
identification and
That's a great
encourage-
idea.
And encourage the EAC to go out there and do a community event?
Could
That's
we-
a great idea
could we-
because,
Could
well,
we do it at the country club as like a bigger event, maybe, like, so that we can invite the public
Yeah,
to come
yeah,
out? I mean,
that's
we've
a-
been looking for ways to get the public back out and
Yeah.
involved again. I think that
well,
would be a good,
and the other
good way
thing
to
that
do
actually,
it.
the other thing that we talked about on our walkthrough that the EAC, that Michelle was going to take back to the EAC to talk about and ask them to help to work on. So the signs that we have around the park that you so kindly replaced before the event, we thought about adding another one sort of in the area where, like, in the area where Red Tail is working, to explain to people when they see them out there and they see the little they're not brush piles, the little habitat piles that they're making, and it will explain why they're doing that and how, kind of exactly what you're saying, how you address invasive species and that sort of thing. So doing that as an educational piece at the park, so when people are walking
Yeah.
the trail, they can see what's being done.
And I won't pretend that my yard is 100% native plants, but I am a big proponent of native plants.
Yeah.
And there's simple education you can do for the community to explain why native dogwoods are more beneficial than Coosa dogwoods, right? In terms
Right.
of
Yeah.
feeding wildlife, just as an example, there are certain very easy landscape choices you can make in your yard to encourage, to benefit wildlife
Right.
and also tends to be less prone to disease because
Yeah.
they're native.
Mhm.
So less
Yeah.
And less water.
less
Yeah.
pesticides, less chemical
Mhm.
inputs, and
Less
so-
habitat for invasive insects
Less,
and other
yeah.
things,
Mhm.
other invasives that,
Yeah.
fun
So that
stuff.
sounds like a good
I think that would be great, yeah. The other interesting thing that happened at the last EAC meeting, though, was they had the Mike
Yes.
Dunn from his company is escaping me right now,
Yes.
Urban Forestry.
Urban forestry. I forget.
Yeah.
But
Well, he
yes.
came and did a presentation. I thought it was really good. It was very informative. He does urban.
Brandywine Urban Forest, is that what it's called?
No.
No.
No, okay.
That doesn't sound right.
But I think the intent, I think we will bring him to a future board meeting to make sort of the same presentation, because we discussed previously the idea of, and part of this discussion on the maintenance strategies is, I think it would be a good idea for us to think about this for the budget next year on working on developing a master plan for our parks.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
talked about that.
Yeah.
And he would be a really great asset for that. So I think he could come in and talk to us and share with the board all of the great things that he could do. I thought the EAC really enjoyed his presentation too.
I hope this is too off topic, but speaking to invasive species, do we have a large number of ashes in that?
Yes.
We do, actually,
And so
yeah.
are we, the only way to preserve them is to treat them with, unfortunately, insecticide.
Unfortunately, we removed 12.
Well, we did remove some. There are still some there, but,
Yeah.
and we did talk to Red Tail about that, and, there are different schools of thought on whether it's better to treat or remove, so I think we would need to get an opinion on that. When we removed the trees, we prioritized the ones that were going to potentially impact the trail or could cause a liability and
Yeah.
harm someone on the trail. All of the other ones that are in like the remote area, we haven't addressed yet.
Yeah, you may want to, I treat my trees, it's almost like I'll have the only ash trees left on, in the northeast United States, but, it's tragic. It's to the extent of chestnut blight.
Yeah.
We'll lose every single ash tree in the United States in a few years.
And one of the good things about this guy is that he will come into, I don't want to say the township. He will come into township property and he will do an inventory
Mhm.
of all your trees.
He just
And
did it
he'll
for
take-
the borough.
Yeah.
Yeah, he just did the borough.
Mhm.
And he'll take a look at them and he'll say, you know, this ash tree is worth saving, or this ash tree you should cut
Yeah.
down, or this walnut tree has
Yeah.
some fungus or whatever it is. So, I thought that would be really, really helpful.
Yeah.
Because another thing that was happening in EAC is that they were arguing amongst themselves about, do we save them, do we cut them down? Do we
Yeah.
save them, do we cut them down?
Well,
Do we
that's a
spend,
decision
you know?
that needs to be made soon because the window's closing
Mhm.
on treatment. So if we don't, I've already seen trees that have not been, were only treated last year, they're already suffering significant dieback.
Yeah.
So,
They've already come, it's already come to my yard.
yeah, so the
It's
decision.
gonna happen.
You have to either treat or not.
Mhm.
Okay. So, do you have answers that you need? Do you get
Yeah,
it?
we were just a discussion,
Okay.
yeah. So I will bring, I'm gonna ask him to come
Okay.
to a future meeting
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
present.
I think, yeah.
That'd be
And
cool.
I think that we take the feedback to the EAC at their next meeting, and we
Yeah.
can talk to them and work towards a plan
Okay.
together.
Hopefully
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
minimal, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You were much more diplomatic than I would have been, and you set the tone very nice for that conversation. Thank you very much. Okay. Consider authorizing advertisement for the Valley Forge Freedoms Foundation Act 537 submission to the PADEP for a sewage facility special study.
And I do need a motion on this. I
will
didn't
make
give you the
that motion.
lines.
Do I hear a second?
Yeah, I'll make a second on that.
Okay, this is really, this has been going on probably as long as I've been on the board. The Freedoms Foundation has had its own sewer authority.
Okay? They have a
And
sewage
it
treatment
has
plant?
failed. Yes, their own sewage treatment plant, and it has failed.
Yep.
So they need to hook up to the Valley Forge
FSA.
Sewer Authority. And Lori, I think you're gonna have to take it from there, because that's about all I really know about it.
Well, beyond that, it's just a whole lot of hoops that have to be jumped through with the DEP in order to get this approved. So basically, that's exactly, they have a
Okay.
failing system. They've done this whole study to allow them to connect to the Valley Forge Sewer Authority. It will remain a private line. This is not something that anybody else can connect to. So it still belongs to them. They're responsible for
Maintenance
maintaining
and
it. Like,
everything
it's
else.
still their line. It's just that they're getting a connection to Valley Forge Sewer Authority because their system is failing. So the Freedoms Foundation has hired their own engineer. It's Wilkinson Associates. They've completed the whole study for them, the plan. But in order for it to be approved, the township has to review it, and the township has to submit it to DEP. So there's just this funny little,
The township has to submit
It-
their.
because it's
Yeah,
our
it's
Act
required.
537 plan.
Because, yes, because it's
Yeah.
part of our 537.
It's a capacity thing.
It's an unfunded mandate that
Yeah.
they require the township to step up and be on the permit. Same thing happens with PennDOT sometimes.
Mhm.
They require us to file for certain widening or repair responsibilities, so.
Mhm.
Is that because we are part owner of the sewage authority?
No.
It's just because it's
It's-
located in the township.
Okay.
Yep, that's right.
And it could be potentially displacing capacity from the township?
Something like that. Yeah.
Just, yep, just a requirement in a rule book at DEP somewhere that
Somebody
makes us have to
voted
do
on-
it.
Yeah, somebody voted on it once upon a
Yeah.
time, and it ended up in our hair.
Yep, so we have been
Yeah.
involved, we've been kind of watching the process the whole time. We haven't been really intimately involved in it, except that TNM has reviewed the plan, and Paul has been working with their engineer.
And the
So-
sewer authority is aware of this?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
yes, they had to give the okay on
Yeah,
it first, so they
okay.
reviewed
Yeah.
it. So the stage that we are at now is that we have to advertise a 30-day public comment period, and then I will bring this all back to you again, so that you can approve a resolution authorizing us to submit this plan to DEP on the Freedoms Foundation behalf, so that they can review it and potentially approve it.
Yeah.
So all I'm asking for tonight is just the approval to advertise that 30-day public comment period. You're not actually approving the plan or anything like that.
Yeah. So we've made a motion in a second. Do we have any other discussion, I guess? Rick?
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
I know, it seems
Just one of those-
silly, I know.
We had a whole,
And I feel bad for them because it's a mess
Yeah.
over there. I
yeah,
understand.
and this process has taken so long for them,
Yes.
and Paul and I were talking about this, and I'm like, wait a minute, and I kept going over, because it's confusing, like, it's weird, doesn't seem logical to me, I'm like, why are we submitting? So we had a whole meeting with their engineer so that they could walk us through this whole, okay, this is why you have to do it this way, but at first
And
I was
again,
like,
this has been failing
Yeah.
as long as I've been on the board,
Yeah.
and it's awful. And the fact that it has to take this long is just terrible. People down the street here too. Was their situation ever resolved?
They're on-site treatment because they were sitting at down the corner.
The corner property?
I'm not, yeah, I'm not sure.
No,
Okay.
not familiar.
I'll
They
talk
were-
about it later.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about it. They were under pretty much the same situation. They had to come up with their own,
On-site septic.
Doesn't Chester County manage that, though? I mean, we
Yeah,
don't
that-
have a
Yes.
sewage
That was
officer.
managed, that was,
Oh, then I guess what we did was we pretty much did the same thing before with them, is we approved whatever and, okay.
we had to
Okay.
approve some permits.
Because
for them.
they can't have a septic system.
They had to have like a conditional use hearing or like a small,
Yeah,
like a small
we
hearing.
had to look at it.
And we had to just like,
Right.
okay it, and it was
Right.
just really,
Yeah, I feel bad for those people too.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Did we vote?
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
we're on to
All right.
resolutions.
Resolutions and ordinances. Adopt ordinance number 2022-06.
You already did that.
We've already done this, it's on the record, I.
Yeah,
just
we
need
hit it up,
signing
we hit it
for,
up right after the public hearing there.
This is just for
Yeah.
signing, it's already done.
Oh, I thought we.
We voted on
I
it.
thought we had
No.
to do it separately.
No, it's the same,
No,
it's
we
on
did
the
it,
record,
yep.
it was
Never
done.
mind then.
Okay,
All right. Do we have anything under, we have nothing under subdivision and land development? Do we have any additional business?
I have two brief things.
Okay.
Just as a, so one of the things that will be on the next agenda for us to discuss are, and Peter kind of mentioned it tonight with Jeff, but there are some opportunities that we were discussing for potential changes in some of our investments so that we can take advantage of higher interest rates. We're not getting a ton of interest right now, so we've been evaluating that. So I will bring that to the board to look at our accounts and approve potential changes, probably at the next business meeting.
Yeah.
So just,
And just, it's a BMP that we usually do every year. And we usually have done that in like February or
Mhm.
March.
just now is a good
Now's
time.
the perfect time to do it because interest rates are going up, so.
Yep.
Yeah. So,
Good, that's awesome.
Cool.
the other thing I will bring to the next meeting to discuss, to kind of close a loop on something that we talked about before in a workshop, was I had sought a quote for new meeting room technology.
Mhm.
But then, following the discussion we had about investigating potential renovations for the building and doing that, I think we should hold on that and do all of that at the same time so that we're not duplicating. Also, equipment is really expensive right now, so
Mhm.
I think it's better to just wait. So we will discuss at the next meeting, renewing the contract to continue having our meetings recorded
Okay.
I did-
without us buying all new things. But we might need to think about a microphone or two, but that's,
Right.
I did want to ask Laura, because I've just been, not at the past couple of meetings, what our plan was, and there's no answer needed now, but
Mhm.
for capital improvements,
Mhm.
and how we need to tackle that as a board, and do we need to set, there's only 3 of us here today, but do we need to set up
Yeah.
a subcommittee or something to provide you with support to look at, improvements. I'm sure that the chief has a list of improvements he'd like.
We both we both
hear
got lists,
you.
yeah.
We don't mean to keep you in the
Yeah.
dungeon
Call list.
forever.
We actually discussed in a recent workshop.
Our last board meeting.
Our plan of attack right now is
Yeah.
for the chief and I to work together and reach out to consult with an architect and start
Okay.
there. Paul with T&M has also done a little bit of research on he's looked through our building before and can help guide us as well. So that's kind of where we're gonna start.
Okay.
So that we can get an idea of what we might need to budget for and prioritize what can we do, what needs to happen first, and kind of set like this is what absolutely has to happen, and this, we'd really like this to happen, and then the sunny day option of,
Okay, I just want to
of
make sure we're
things.
providing the support, any support that you need to do that.
yeah.
Thank you.
The other thing is that maybe at the next meeting, I'd love an update on how your records project is going.
Yes.
Slowly,
Slowly.
yeah. But yes, I will,
Okay.
yes. That was it for me.
Cool.
Alright. I have a couple of announcements here. East Pipeland and Schuylkill Township will be hosting an electronics recycling day on Saturday, June 25th, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Kimberton Fire Company. We need volunteers for this event. Please contact,
I'll be there.
Lori?
You'll be there?
I'll be there anyway, so.
yeah, I'll be there too.
Just-
Great.
So,
Where is it taking place?
I was just gonna say, is there information on our website about where it will be?
There is, it's
and-
at the,
Is it the firehouse? Over at Kimberton Firehouse, or is it over at the East Pipeland Township building? Or
it's not at the township building. I don't think it's at the firehouse
Last
either.
year it was at
I-
the firehouse, it was
Yeah.
at the fire company.
I wanted to say the firehouse.
Let me check.
Okay, I'll move on then. The township building will be closed on Monday, June 20th for Juneteenth, and Monday, July 4th for Independence Day. And as Chief mentioned earlier, Cones for the Cop is scheduled for Thursday, June 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. on the grounds behind the police department. And as soon as we find out where the electronics event
I just had that
going
out
to
too.
be,
My computer completely turned off.
and I just closed mine, sorry.
It is at Kimberton Fire
At the
Company.
fire company.
You were right.
Okay. So, last year when we did this event, you could enter the event off of Route 113. And, then you kind of go in the front exit and then went out the back exit onto, is that Kimberton Road? Yeah,
Yeah.
so, yes, and I will be there.
Great.
And we'll be there.
And isn't it an evening event?
It's in the
9 a.m.
morning.
Did I say PM? 9
9
a.m. to 12 p.m.
Oh, but it's on a weekend.
It's on,
Yes,
it's
it's
on
on
the
Saturday.
Saturday, the 25th. Yeah.
Oh, why did I think the 23rd was the Saturday? Okay.
Is,
Yeah,
I know that
feels
the
like it,
last
yeah.
time we did this event, there were some charges for
I don't know
certain
what date it
things.
There still are.
Yep.
And is that also on our website?
Yep.
Okay, so for further information, please go to our website. So,
Before we
Okay.
confuse ourselves anymore.
all right, now.
Thanks.
All right, public comment. Do you have anything, sir? Okay. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Good.
Great.
Do we have a?